What's up, 5th through 8th? I'm Zach, and this is the third week in our series on Nehemiah. We've been talking about restoration, right? So when I think of restoration, I think of those building TV shows where they take something old and ugly, like a house, and they make it new and beautiful. I think specifically of Fixer Upper, all right? Fixer Upper, it's got all my favorite things. It's got Chip and Jo, it's got Waco, it's got Baylor, it's got Demolition, all my favorite things. So when I think of Chip and Jo, they approach a project, they think, okay, what are we gonna do to this house? We have our vision, we have our blueprint. Now we need to call people into it, these contractors, these pros in their field, so that they can come and help us build this project. Once they're all covered on the subject, they go, they do, they build, and they come up with this beautiful, awesome house that blesses somebody in the future. Okay, so we're gonna be in Nehemiah today talking about how God and God's people with Nehemiah went to rebuild the walls of Jerusalem. So Nehemiah, he could have done it by himself, but like Chip and Jo, he calls these gifted people, God's people, to help him rebuild this wall as well. So this semester, we've been talking about mission, reflecting Jesus to the world around us. What does this have to do with restoration? How are we supposed to invite those around us to experience restoration? Let's go check out Nehemiah. So we are in Nehemiah chapter 2, verse 17, and this whole section goes to the end of chapter 3. But I'm going to start in verses 17, I'm going to read 17, 18, and then verse 20. Then I, this is Nehemiah, said to them, "You see the troubles we are in, how Jerusalem lies in ruins with its gates burned. Come, let us build the wall of Jerusalem, that we may no longer suffer derision." And I told them of the hand of my God that had been upon me for good, and also of the words that the king had spoken to me. And they said, "Let us rise up and build." So they strengthened their hands for the good work. Skipping to verse 20. Then I replied to them, "The God of heaven will make us prosper, and we his servants will arise and build." So in verse 17, Nehemiah identifies the issue. Jerusalem is completely vulnerable, completely exposed. It's like they're playing king of the hill, but they've got no way to protect themselves. So Nehemiah comes to the people and proclaims this desire that God has put on his heart. God has told him that he wants him to rebuild the walls of Jerusalem. So he comes to the people, let us rebuild the wall. Nehemiah tells the people about that the hand of my God is upon me for good. This shows the people that God is working something for their good. He is organizing a blessing for his people. So the people of Israel hear this and they think, okay, Nehemiah is with God. This is a passion that God has laid on his heart. We can trust this. So they're willing, they have this desire to serve. So they say, let us rise up and build. And they begin to strengthen their hands for this good work. So the remainder, this whole chapter 3 that comes after, is Nehemiah explaining, okay, this person went to this gate and they built this. And this person right next to them built this. And it goes all the way around the wall until they've completed the wall. It talks about how they're side by side. They work gate by gate until it's completely finished. So the people are responding, they trust Nehemiah's leadership, and they trust that God will give them success. So priests, men, women, children, they all have a place to serve. Every person has a place at the wall to serve. Gate by gate, side by side, people are working towards one goal of doing the will of the Father. And that will is restoring his people. So Nehemiah identifies the problem. He calls other people to help. And then together they work side by side to fix that problem. So what does this mean for us? Obviously this means with your small group this week, I want you to get a bunch of stones, a bunch of bricks, and we're gonna build a giant wall around. Kidding, right? Okay, so Nehemiah, he has the passions of his heart that are laid on him by God, and he uses those to lead people around him. So how can you do the same? How should the passions of your heart affect how you lead others? How can you invite those around you to do God's work? An idea is you can invite your squad to go bless somebody. Spring is sprung, flowers are blooming, you can go mow the lawn, rake some leaves, plant some flowers. What are some ways you can challenge your friends to reflect Jesus? This could be as simple as asking your friend about what they're learning in their quiet time. Or if they haven't been doing their quiet time, challenging them to spend more time in that. How can you actively trust that God is working in your favor and that He'll protect you even in the midst of opposition that will come? So back to this idea with Chip and Joe. They communicate to their team their vision of what they want to do for this fixer-upper. They communicate the passions of their heart. So their team is then able to work towards doing the same goal by being inspired by Chip and Joe. You can do the same, okay? Communicate the passions that are on your heart that come from the Lord. Communicate to those around you, and then together work towards the same goal. People in this world, they want to follow somebody. So be someone worth following who is leading others like Christ and is leading others to Christ. Use your passion for the gospel and your passion to do God's work, that it overflows to those around you. Use this passion to reflect Jesus to the world around you. Be like Nehemiah. Identify the problem. What has Jesus laid on your heart? Call others to action. Who are the people around you, maybe even in your small group, that can accomplish these goals and these passions that God has laid on your heart? And the final step is go and do it. So think with your small groups this week of something that you can do as a small group. Go bless some people, and we'll see y'all next week.